If there was ever a place on Earth that embodied hell itself, it was Auschwitz, a death camp forever associated with one of humanity's greatest crimes. At this place, over 1 million lives were extinguished, not by natural causes, but through beatings, starvation, incineration, or mass murder in gas chambers. Most of the people sent there clung desperately to any hope of escape from the inhumane brutality. But among those millions, there was one man who didn't flee. He did the unthinkable. He chose to walk into that nightmare. His name was Vitold Pilecki, and the story you're about to hear may change your understanding of what true courage really means. Vitold Pilecki, whose real name was Vitold Pilecki, was born in 1901 in a region then under Russian rule, now part of modern-day Poland. He grew up in a humble family, living through hardship and poverty, and briefly served during World War I. After the war, he chose a quiet life. He married a schoolteacher, became a father of 2, and tried to build a peaceful, stable existence. He wasn't a man who stood out in a crowd. If you met him then, you'd see a simple man, not someone you'd expect to become one of the greatest unsung heroes of the 20th century. On September 1, 1939, Nazi Germany launched its invasion of Poland from the west. Just 2 weeks later, the Soviet Union attacked from the east. The two totalitarian giants crushed Poland like a vice. Though the Polish army was quickly overwhelmed, the spirit of resistance remained strong. Vitold, nearing the age of 40, joined the underground movement in Warsaw known as the Secret Polish Army. Among the young and impulsive fighters, Vitold became a pillar of calm and strength. His patience and wisdom earned him the nickname the caretaker of the resistance. But soon, something strange started happening. Resistance fighters who were captured and sent to a newly established German camp called Auschwitz began to die from illness within weeks. Telegrams from the camp reported sudden deaths, vaguely attributed to disease. No explanations. No clarity. Just disappearance. Something incredibly dark was happening behind the walls of Auschwitz. During a secret resistance meeting, a commander turned to Vitold and said, "You've been chosen. It's an honor and a mission." They needed someone to go inside the death camp. Someone calm, resilient, discreet, someone who could survive long enough to uncover the truth and send it back. Vitold knew the risk. He had a wife and children. If he were discovered, it wouldn't just cost him his life, his entire family could suffer. But still, he said yes. On September 19, 1940, as German bombers rained destruction over Warsaw, Vitold quietly set out on a mission no one else dared to imagine. He arranged to be arrested under a false identity, Tomasz Sarafiński. From there, he was thrown onto a prisoner train bound for Auschwitz. As the train screeched to a stop in front of the infamous Iron Gate, he read the deceitful inscription overhead, "Arbeit macht frei, work sets you free." But he knew better. Behind the gate, there was no freedom. There was only brutality, fear, and death. Within moments of arrival, Vitold witnessed the horrors firsthand. The air was filled with screams. Prisoners were beaten, humiliated, dehumanized. Just hours after stepping off the train, he watched a fellow inmate get beaten to death. At the delousing station, guards ordered Vitold to hold his new prisoner number between his teeth. He hesitated just for a second and a steel club struck him in the face, smashing 2 of his front teeth. Later, he wrote in his notes with chilling calm, "I spat out the 2 teeth. Just another day here." From that moment forward, Vitold Pilecki ceased to exist. He was now prisoner 4859, one number among thousands of broken souls. But deep inside, the fire within him still burned. He never forgot why he came to Auschwitz, to reveal the truth about the monstrous machine hiding behind its walls. Each passing day in the Auschwitz camp felt like living in a version of hell on earth. Prisoners were pushed to the brink by forced labor, suffered constant hunger, and lived under crushing psychological pressure where death could come at any moment. Hundreds of inmates didn't survive a single day. They collapsed at the work sites, in the barracks, or simply vanished after a scream rang out. In his early days at the camp, Vitold was forced to help construct part of the crematorium, a facility designed to dispose of bodies once the last breath had left them. And yet, amid the chaos and despair, he never lost sight of his sole mission to gather the truth and expose it to the world. Just a few weeks after arriving at Auschwitz in October 1940, Vitold carried out one of his first daring acts. He wrote his initial report detailing life inside the camp, what he had seen with his own eyes, and what the world wasn't supposed to know. A recently released prisoner managed to smuggle the report back to Warsaw, from where it was sent to the Polish government in exile operating in London. It became the world's first eyewitness account of the Auschwitz concentration camp, a document that shook the conscience of all who read it. But Vitold didn't stop at reporting. He began organizing a secret resistance network inside the camp, a task that seemed nearly impossible. The group called themselves ZOW, short for the Union of Military Organization, composed of individuals willing to risk everything just to keep hope alive. They engaged in acts that might seem small but carried enormous symbolic weight, sabotaging machinery, secretly distributing food, collecting intelligence, and lifting the spirits of fellow inmates. These were quiet but powerful forms of defiance. Against all odds, they even started planning an armed uprising, a mission bordering on madness considering the heavily armed guards and towering fences that surrounded them. Vitold sent multiple messages to the outside world, pleading with the Allied forces to carry out an airstrike on the camp. He wasn't asking them to destroy the Nazis, he was hoping that the bombing would create enough chaos for prisoners to escape or, at the very least, offer them a quicker, less agonizing death. But his appeals were met with silence. No one responded. As time passed, the camp expanded dramatically. Initially, it housed mostly Polish political prisoners. But soon, Soviet POWs, Jews, and Romani people began arriving in large numbers, causing the death toll to soar with each passing day. By late 1941, the Nazis began testing a horrifying new method of mass murder, Zyklon B, a cyanide-based gas capable of killing hundreds of people within minutes. The first victims were captured soldiers from the Red Army. Not long after, entire trains packed with people of all ages, from newborn babies to the elderly, were brought straight from the platform to the gas chambers. There were no interrogations, no delays. They were erased from existence in a single afternoon. Vitold and the members of his underground resistance could do nothing but stand and watch as a massive killing machine operated with the cold precision of an assembly line. They kept sending out desperate pleas and warnings to the Allied forces. But once again, the world remained silent. Despite the dire conditions and constant danger, they achieved something extraordinary. They secretly built a working radio transmitter right in the heart of the death camp. Using it, they transmitted regular reports about the horrific realities inside the camp, reports that reached all the way to London. For months, that fragile signal was the only thread connecting Auschwitz to the outside world. But eventually, someone betrayed them. The Nazis launched an aggressive crackdown. Just before the operation could be discovered, Vitold dismantled the transmitter and destroyed all traces of its existence. Even in the darkest hours, hope refused to die. One prisoner risked everything to smuggle in news from the BBC, a sliver of light in a sea of darkness. Vitold later recalled how just hearing that the war wasn't lost and that the Allies were pushing back was enough to rekindle the fire in his heart, even if only for a moment. But by 1943, Vitold came to a painful realization: no one was coming to save them. He had survived over 2.5 years, far longer than anyone thought possible, but he knew he had reached the limit of what he could achieve from inside. The uprising was too risky. The camp was too heavily guarded, too well fortified. And worst of all, the outside world still turned its back. It was time to escape. There was no other choice. Vitold had to get out of Auschwitz, not to flee, but to continue the fight from the other side of the barbed wire. On the night of April 26, 1943, after more than 2.5 years inside the hell of Auschwitz, Vitold and two fellow resistance fighters carried out a daring escape. Through careful planning, they managed to get assigned to the night shift at a bakery located outside the main camp. When darkness fell, they used makeshift tools to pry open a steel door and slipped silently into the thick night, carrying with them nothing but a fragile hope for freedom. They ran through the night, following narrow dirt paths, hiding beneath trees and in ditches to evade German patrols. During the tense escape, Vitold was shot and wounded, blood pouring from his body, but he gritted his teeth and pushed forward. The trio survived only thanks to the bravery and selflessness of Polish farmers who risked execution to shelter and help the fugitives. After an exhausting journey of over 100 kilometers, they finally reached safety. As soon as he reached safety, Vitold, whose real name was Vitold Pilecki, wrote the most detailed and comprehensive report to date about what he had witnessed inside Auschwitz. His account described the unimaginable cruelty, the organized killing machinery, and a genocide of unprecedented scale. Once again, he urgently called on the Allied nations to strike the camp, not only to halt the atrocities but also to give those still imprisoned a fighting chance at survival. And once again, his pleas fell on deaf ears, dismissed by political calculations and indifference. But Vitold refused to give up. In the summer of 1944, when the Warsaw Uprising erupted, he didn't hesitate to return to the capital and rejoin the resistance. The uprising was a brutal, heartbreaking battle that lasted over 2 months. Vitold and his comrades fought fiercely. Street by street, rooftop by rooftop, against the occupying Nazi forces. For him, it was not just about reclaiming a city, but about preserving the unbreakable spirit of a people long torn apart. Ultimately, however, the uprising was crushed. Vitold was captured once again, this time sent to a German prisoner of war camp. He endured the final, grim months of World War II in harsh captivity until he was finally liberated in 1945. But for him, the war was far from over. Following the fall of Nazi Germany, Poland fell under a new regime, a Soviet-backed communist government. Once again, freedom was suffocated. And once again, Vitold chose resistance. This time, his enemy wore a different mask. But the tyranny was all too familiar. He became a target of the new regime's secret police. In 1947, Vitold was arrested. He was brutally tortured, forced to confess under duress, and charged with treason. A charge the communist authorities routinely used to silence true patriots. On May 25, 1948, Vitold Pilecki was executed by firing squad in silence, without fanfare. He was just 47 years old. His name, along with his extraordinary courage, was deliberately erased from public record. For decades, the name Prisoner 4859 vanished from history books, and the world seemed to forget the man who had voluntarily stepped into hell to fight evil from within. But truth can never stay buried forever. When communism collapsed across Eastern Europe in 1989, history began to rewrite itself. The story of Vitold Pilecki finally came to light. His reports were published for the world to see. Historians and the international public hailed him as the forgotten hero of the 20th century. His name was honored. Statues were erected. Schools and streets were named after him. His life became a symbol of courage, silent sacrifice, and unyielding resistance. Vitold Pilecki wasn't just a witness to atrocity. He willingly walked into the darkness with his eyes wide open, carrying with him the light of truth and bravery. He couldn't save everyone, but he showed humanity what real courage looks like. Not the absence of fear, but the strength to move forward, knowing the cost could be your very life. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one.